Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our major stories. Federal government plans to set up cattle settlements as part of measures to end clashes with farmers. Governor Samuel Otom calls for the arrest of Mietiala leaders as women protest continued killings in Benue communities. Human traffickers to face prosecution as federal government vows to go tough on them. And U.S. to cancel permits allowing people from El Salvador to live and work in that country. For more on our top stories and others, please visit our website. It's channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. Log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have the Eyewitness feature with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu and follow the instructions. And talking about pictures, here are some of them you sent into our Eyewitness portal today. Our first image is from Sokoto Highway showing an overloaded vehicle. Our Eyewitness reporter says the culprit is a 72-year-old driver apprehended by officials of the Federal Road Safety Corps. He wants the agency to do more in stopping this dangerous act. We move on to Lagos with this picture of a pile of refuse along the Gbaja Street in Surulere area. Our Eyewitness reporter says the waste collecting agency has refused to carry out their duty, making the area smelly and untidy. Still on waste is this image from Uduelegba area in Lagos showing another heap. Our Eyewitness reporter says he wants it cleared as soon as possible. And still in Lagos is this next image from Alakwere Pt.2 area showing another pile. Our Eyewitness reporter says the act has been recurring in the area and wants the refuse collecting agency to do more in keeping the environment clean. And we end with this video from Aguda area in Surulere, Lagos showing a building surrounded by water. Our Eyewitness reporter alleges that the woman who owns this building says that it belonged to her mother. But the person who sent the image wants the government to help resolve this problem. Thank you so much for sending in those images. And remember, you too can send pictures and videos of what's happening around you. The federal government is threatening to prosecute persons or groups involved in the trafficking of Nigerians to Libya. That's because members of the federal government delegation to Libya have identified that human trafficking plays a major role in the influx of Nigerians to Libya. The delegation, led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyema, was in Libya last week to speed up the evacuation of Nigerians held in Libyan camps.
The federal government had a week ago sent a fact-finding delegation to Libya to ascertain the situation of Nigerians who are kept in Libyan camps as illegal migrants and facilitate their evacuation. At this news press conference in Abuja, the leader of that delegation, who is also the Minister of Foreign Affairs, highlighted the situation faced by Nigerian migrants in Libya and the evacuation challenges they face. According to him, there are human traffickers who make the evacuation process a lot difficult for government officials.
The criminal element involved in this trafficking and this migration question means that a lot of our children are nothing more than property. There are very influential and powerful people who have an interest in these young boys and girls not returning to Nigeria because they are economic assets for them.
485 Libyan returnees arrived Port Harcourt on Sunday, January the 7th, 2018, making the numbers of Nigerians evacuated from Libya since 2017 to stand at 6,393. That is according to the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Meanwhile, the Director General of NEMA explains the reasons why the federal government chose the Port Harcourt Airport instead of the Murtala Mohammed Airport this time around.
With the magnitude at this point, we felt the facility in Lagos might be overstretched, and therefore we had to look for alternative. Port Harcourt was visited by the team, and then we observed that it has adequate facilities.
However, the Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, vows to prosecute human traffickers involved in some of the Libyan cases.
We are profiling the returnees in order to identify those who are victims of trafficking. Of course, almost all of them are victims of trafficking by virtue of their irregular status. And then, of course, in NAPTIP, it's very important to prosecute, because that is the justice that you can give to these victims. It's not enough to just rehabilitate them and let them go. For us in NAPTIP, when we prosecute the traffickers and get them locked up, that's the mission accomplished, and that is what we plan to accomplish as well.
Even though 369 human traffickers have been prosecuted and convicted by NAPTIP since 2011, this crime against humanity continued to thrive, just as government officials vowed to send more human traffickers to jail.
More returnees are coming back from Libya, with another batch of 181 Nigerians arriving this evening at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos. The illegal migration of Nigerians to foreign countries has become cause for concern for the federal government, with thousands recounting harrowing stories of their experience in Libya, their chosen transit point to Europe. This next report features accounts of Nigerians who have embarked on this dangerous journey.
One can imagine the conversation between two emigrants about to leave Nigeria, going this way.
Let's emigrate to Europe. We'll go through Libya. Sounds like a plan.
Little did they know they'll need a plan B, as thousands of Nigerians got stuck in Libya and had to return home. Over 400 voluntary returnees from the North African country arrived in Port Harcourt, Rivers State on Sunday aboard this aircraft. It's the first batch of Nigerian migrants evacuated by the federal government. They hope to bring back 5,027. Gloria, with her baby, in one of the earlier exits, was glad to leave.
I was here for the past 2 months. I wanted to go to Italy before. When I got to the scene site, they arrested me.
Marvelous from Edo State explained that he left Nigeria because he couldn't find a job. He had to sell all he had to pay for the trip.
There was no assistance, no job, no work. I opened store. There was no work, so I decided to let me try other places, see if I can make it. So that's why I gathered myself, sell all my property all together to make way when there is no way. But actually, I got to Libya. I was at the seaside when they bust us. They said we are immigrants. They will not allow us to pass. So that's why they arrest us. From October now, I've been in the prison up till today.
Now that Marvelous is back in Nigeria, he is among the 6,806 returnees who returned since February 2016 till date, received by the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and other agencies. And if the emigrants scaled the hurdle of passage through Libya, these are the images of what they had to endure to reach their destination in Europe. Swimming is a skill that will increase their chances of survival. And maybe prayer. Therefore, when Nossa passed through Libya for Italy, he thought he was home free.
We were there for 2 months. So we were about to take our move to Italy. So the UN came and raided us, then take us back to Gurian. Gurian is a bad prison. So we spent almost 2 months and 2 weeks there, over there.
The voluntary returnees are all young people, and the federal government is trying to encourage Nigerians to refrain from embarking on this dangerous journey. But the government also has the responsibility of improving the quality of life of Nigerians so that will-be emigrants won't have an excuse to leave the country for reasons of economic hardship.
To examine this issue further, I'm now being joined on the News at 10 live from our Abuja studios by the Special Advisor to the President on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa. You're welcome.
Thank you very much and good evening.
Now, a federal government team which you were part of just returned from a fact-finding mission to Libya. What can you say about the conditions of Nigerians in that country?
Well, pictures don't tell anything. Being in those detention centers, we went to about 4. First, the Honorable Minister led a powerful negotiating team, and he actually conducted very good negotiations with the Libyan authorities, and they were willing to waive everything to make us bring Nigerians back home almost immediately, which we did. And they allowed us access to the detention centers. I'm telling you, it was harrowing. It was surreal. It was so emotional. And walking into the first detention center where we had almost 600 Nigerians in detention there, as soon as we walked in, they were ecstatic. And they all rose up and sang the national anthem with passion. And all they wanted was, we just want to come back home. And we realized that home is the best place to be. And for all of us, you know, even an enemy does not deserve to go through what they have gone through. So we're glad that the President's mission through the delegation is successful. And as we await arrivals of more Nigerians in Libya, we're very optimistic that with the arrangements put in place by NEMA, every Nigerian stranded in Libya will be brought back. So it was, well, it's not the first time, actually. As far back as 2010, the current Comptroller General of Immigration, who was actually the immigration officer at NAPTIP, had been at the head of the delegation to Libya to bring back about 5,000 then in 2010. And I remember that in Parliament, we brought back about 25 that were to be killed. So, but what is happening now that this is the first time that the federal government is embarking on such a massive evacuation. And hopefully this will be the beginning of the end of such torture and harrowing experiences for our youth.
But how do you know for sure that all the people returning are really Nigerians?
Well, the embassy profiles them, they get their traveling certificates, maybe not all of them. And I'll tell you an experience. In one of the detention centers where we saw the women, one of them was a Ghanaian, and she begged us that when you take the Nigerians away, can I come with you? And she gave us a phone number. She was there with a 10-year-old baby, and a 10-year-old child, and the minister said, well, you are ECOWAS citizens. If those of them want to come back to Nigeria, let them come back to Nigeria, and then we take them through Nigeria to their various countries. I believe that that Ghanaian lady, for instance, will be among the next set that will be coming back to Nigeria. So, yes, if we bring the ECOWAS citizens back to Nigeria, not too many of them, through Nigeria, they go back to their countries. But a lot of them, majority are Nigerians, that we're sure of. For instance, there was one of them, we're not so sure. We said, okay, where are you from? And incidentally, she said she was from Lagos State and lives in Ikorodu. I mean, that was quite a coincidence. And we spoke our languages to some of them. And basically, the embassy profiles them, then gets their travel certificates. But there are some non-Nigerians that the minister has said, as ECOWAS citizens, you can bring them back, and then from Nigeria, they can go back to their various countries.
In your opinion, what's the best way to ensure that more Nigerians don't embark on this dangerous trip?
Well, everybody knows that, and you know, we've said it many times, it's government's responsibility to provide an enabling environment for youths to try, for jobs to be provided and all that. But however, you know, you find that this has been a failure of leadership over the years. But under the present administration, President Buhari is determined to tackle this, and that is why he's saying first, bring them back, ensure they are properly rehabilitated and they recover well. For instance, the empowerment programs, some of those a lot of them that have come back. First, state governors are taking responsibility for their citizens. Edo State takes their citizens right from the airport, and so far it's been success stories from Edo State. A lot of them are being rehabilitated, they are going through skills, and some of them are going into farming, quite a lot of them. And as we brought back some of them yesterday, there's an SDG program for returnees where they can go through life skills empowerment programs. So yes, government must provide jobs, and that has to be done, and that is being done under this administration with a focus on tackling security, corruption, as well as improving the economy. That is there, but most importantly is that, one, as we have heard them say at the press conference today, the cartel must be tackled. Traffickers must be arrested and prosecuted. And then also there must be massive awareness. If all those youth you saw knew they were going to go through, they will never have embarked on that journey. And they told us as much as that. So most importantly is that let's each one teach one. Tell everybody that it's not worth it. And parents in particular who encourage their children, who even sell their properties to send their children on these dangerous journeys, should be one that it is just not worth it. So it's a potpourri of different things that need to be done. And talking to those young ones, you could see brilliant young men and women that should not be wasted away. So it's a responsibility of government. It's also a responsibility for every one of us to ensure that we take care of one another and have a massive awareness campaign on the dangers of such kind of migration.
The Special Advisor to the President on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Mrs. Pt.2, thank you so much for speaking with us. When the news at 10 returns, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves hit $40.4 billion as central bank injects fresh $210 million into the interbank market. That's on Business News. Join us again.